Per usual, when the trekkers are anywhere near a state capitol, we try to get in and see the Capitol building, and Florida was no different. We're here in Tallahassee, and behind us is the restored 1902 version of the state capitol, but not the one they still use as the state capitol.
So in 1972-ish, so let's say the 1970s, Florida outgrew the Capitol building and decided to build a new one. And in true 1970s fashion, they built a 22-story office building. It is one of the ugliest buildings I've ever seen. Jeez, Florida. But the sad thing is they were going to demolish the old historic Capitol, and luckily a citizens initiative saved it, which is a good thing because it is really cool. The original Capitol was completed in 1845. And over the years, it was added on to restored, as obviously the legislature and the executive branch grew and Florida grew. But when that 1970s building went up, they chose to actually restore the historic Capitol back to the 1902 version. And so that's what you can see and tour today.
Yeah, so I said the 1902 version. It's actually the one that was built in 1845. It's like Florida's second or third Capitol building, actually. But when they restored it, it was in 1902. Now, the interesting part was that they were going to tear it down when they built the new building in the 70s, and there was an initiative to keep it. And the compromise was they took off some of the additions and made it what it looked like in 1902. So at least we have that version.
We were not able to get into the actual Capitol. It is only open Monday through Friday. We're here on a Saturday, but the old historic building is open all 7 days of the week except for a few major holidays, so check the calendar. But it's free to go into. They do ask for some donations. There is a Capitol store, so you can purchase some souvenirs. But essentially it was really kind of cool to see not only the restored version, but they've also included a lot of just historic artifacts and Florida history throughout the museum.
I usually, when we do these state capitol tours, I try to think of a word or an impression when I see a capitol, like what comes to mind. For me, this one was austere. Like, it's nice, but it's not a lot of marble. It's not a lot of fancy gold and painting. It's very much sort of white and gray and woodwork.
Which is probably very typical for 1902. There are some exhibits in there where they talk about the original plaster paint that they found, and you can see some of that they found when they've through multiple of the reconstructions. They also talk about at one point in the 1940s, that they actually had taken out the middle staircase and put in two marble staircases, but then those were removed to go back to the 1902 version. So it's really kind of weird, like all the different, I don't know, how would you call it? All like the different looks and feels of what this Capitol has been through.
This building has been through a lot of changes, and it's interesting that they actually tore out the marble staircases and went back to the wooden staircase from 1902. And we were reading a thing where they're talking about when they did that in the restoration, looking at how to restore it all, the only picture they had of the 1902 staircase was when somebody had been lying in state. So they have a picture of a coffin, and there's the staircase behind them, and that's how they knew how to set it up for the restoration.
It's just really interesting, and we love our history, so any chance that we can get to go into a building like this and see the old Supreme Court room, the old governor's room, the Senate and the House chambers, and then again learning about the different history. So there's exhibits on Florida's elections, Florida's role in World War II, immigration, pretty much all of the things related to Florida history you can find throughout the museum. So even though we didn't get to go into the real Capitol, which hopefully someday we'll get to go do, just to see how boring it is, I guess. I don't know. I'm very curious what the actual inside of that building looks like, if it's just office buildings. But anyways, the museum was cool today, the old Capitol.
It is a great stop to make. I mean, it's free. It's open 7 days a week. It's a really pretty building in its own right, and it's neat to learn the history. It is right in downtown Tallahassee, and although it's open every day, if you're here on the weekdays, parking may be a little trickier, and particularly if the legislature is in session, which is 3 months.
Florida has a part-time legislature, and I want to say it's like March and April, maybe June. I'm not exactly sure, but check their schedule.
You skipped some months there, but it's part-time. That's what you need to know.
May.
If the legislature's in session, parking is going to really be a problem, and especially if you have a rig. There's part of the parking here is parking ramps, which didn't work for us with the van, but there is some street parking, and there are some flat lots you can park in. But something to keep in mind if you're planning your trip here. But I would get to the state capitol. I don't know if I can recommend the modern Capitol, but the historic Capitol is now a museum, was really neat, and I think you ought to check it out. When you get to Florida, make sure you get to Tallahassee. Keep on trekking.
And we'll see you out there.